car accident.
Oh, there we go.
Oh.
But it's super sweet, isn't it?
The sweet ride. I was like, man, I'm like, it's Andy's car. So I'm like, no way he has like two sweet cars. I'm only trying one at a time, like. Cars for.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, so I had it shipped to Chicago and it was there for about 2 months.
And where did you buy it from?
So I bought it on an auction site. So I studied these auctions for about 2 years. And I bought it the week after the stock market crash and no one was bidding.
Wow.
It was amazing.
How did you know it was his original car?
It's not his car.
Oh,
it's his style,
yeah.
yeah. Actually, his car was like a steel blue
All right.
with a blue interior with white piping. Yeah, so it's not his actual car, yeah.
That's really cool.
It was so cool, and he was just over the moon. He was
I'm
just
sure.
over the moon. It was so exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun. And
So-
now I get to have it here as kind of a great memory, yeah.
So it looks like they've disabled screen sharing because they've been having the bombing problems.
Yeah, but
Wow,
See,
yeah.
so I can't share
Mm,
unless you know of another.
well, no, I mean, you can plug the monitor directly into your.
No, I know,
computer.
and I'd rather not do that.
Yeah, I know,
I'll
I
try
agree.
this tonight. Let's see if there's another, how about more participants?
So the first promotional email went out to me.
I thought it was
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
go. That's exciting.
Yeah,
You're so good at that.
I'd
I'm
like
like, I
to.
told them I'd help them, but then I'm like, I've never posted on top of the thing. I don't even know how to. And I'm like, and you're like, oh, we need you to just proofread. I'm like, sweet. Thank you. Thank you.
But I think we'll get more response if we focus in on the Cary Bay effort. And Tom had suggested that, and Bridget hasn't really kind of been too excited about it.
Yeah, because I'm meeting with Josh tomorrow.
Can you bring it up with them?
Yeah, I mean, well, we're recording, but I met with him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
And I kind of gave him the spiel and he kind of wanted to do a engagement and we mentioned this date. And he's like, perfect, because it lines up perfect with his timing and getting everybody on board, but. So it's their call. Josh works for Bridget,
yeah.
so. All right, let's start this and hopefully this won't go crazy on me. All right, so far so good. We're gonna exit out of here.
And do either of you want to host?
I'm worried that I'm going to be coming in hot, have a meeting.
Right, of
Um,
course.
and so I
I
mean,
know.
I can close down for sure, but if I'm late.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna work, me hosting. but-
Okay, great.
I can shut it down on the backside, because I'm just worried about not getting here in time, to kick it off.
Don't worry.
What's wrong with our normal host?
This one?
Yeah.
I don't want to. I did the last one.
You did a
And
good
it,
job.
well, it turned out, it was, because the last time we did it, it took 45 minutes to get everything rigged. So there was a lot of stress coming into it. And within 2 minutes, we had everything working. Literally, but I'd really prefer not to.
Who is the contact?
Joe's a great,
Joe? Howard Joe?
our Joe,
Yeah.
Joe's great, like, he's a trained,
Yeah,
whatever you call him.
And does he have, like, they're coming, I'm assuming, with their own, media,
Presentation.
like, right, their own laptop, or did you go off yours last time?
I went off mine. They should have them. They should have them.
So it's just a matter of getting them hooked up,
Yeah.
right? And they one of them was just here. Bridget wasn't here though, right? Last time.
There we go. Okay, let's do that. All right, call meeting to order at 6:03 PM. Any adjustments to the agenda? Cool. Any changes to the May 2025 minutes?
no, I'll make the motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any public comments? Andy, if you want to kick us off,
Yeah.
I'll bring up the doc.
put that document up that has all of our changes with Greta's comments,
Yep.
just, quick overview, so. Planning Commission is in the process of, making some updates to our development regulations. We've gotten feedback, this committee, DRB, from the ZA. And so, based on all this input, we recommended some changes. And one of the things we wanted to do before we, go.
You're gonna add this to the zoning? To the planning requirements?
Yeah,
Wow.
oh yeah, this is how it was submitted, okay? No, everything basically everything that this subcommittee recommended,
Yeah.
we incorporated, okay?
This is great.
You know.
You did this with us.
I did. It
Okay.
doesn't mean that it shows up here.
So,
We went through all this together
Yeah.
and submitted it.
No, but it actually went through. That's amazing.
It did not.
but not everything went through, the 75-foot setback.
Yeah.
But, anyway, so, and there was a number of, fairly significant changes we, wanted to make. So we wanted to get the approval of the Regional Planning Commission, so we sent this document to Greta Brunswick. And unfortunately, we got her comments back like an hour before our last meeting. And if you look at her comments, she didn't really have any issue with any of the changes we proposed, except for the way we are referring to other permits that may be required. So all of her comments are kind of related to that. So maybe if you can just go through her comments,
Yep.
cause they kind of repeat, but just.
Are there reference materials to each of these practices? The answer is yes. I mean, those are, but
Is that too much? But anyway, just go
And I'll
over
keep going.
all the comments
Yep.
first, then we can decide. And again, it'll ultimately be up to the planning commission to
Make
make a change, but I'd love to have it come out of this subcommittee.
Yeah.
I mean, this is actually a positive statement. In my opinion, this is written with a narrow focus on shoreland.
Mhm.
The shoreline committee submitted
Yeah.
all of these comments.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Wetland and Army Corps permits. There are many possible state permits required, a few common ones that are not listed. Wastewater, potable water, stormwater. Should refer the agency of natural resources generally and specifically the ANR permit navigator.
And just stop right there. If you look at what we crossed out, it's similar to what this subcommittee proposed to replace. And Greta wasn't that happy the first time around with what we originally had, but she bought off on it. You know, what you've done, Tom, has just gotten more specific to what we said before.
So with this, right, so number one, we repeated this a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And she did not like
You
that.
did not like that. Yeah.
And I think our justification of the time is in each, because people go right to a regulation, they
Yeah.
don't go through the whole
Oh, we
thing.
had good reason.
And so you want that in their
Yep.
face, so to speak.
Yeah,
That was our right
yeah.
reasoning.
Now that, you know, I don't think we're gonna see much different from that comment. They were just gonna keep scrolling through.
But what I
mean,
guess,
All cover everything she's talking about? I mean, you listed just about everything under the sun.
well, so this is what, and I think this is a good document.
Yeah, so Danielle and I met with her a couple of days after the planning commission meeting. And she sent this as a recommendation up front in references, if we have this. And she was also pushing for the permit, you know, reference to the permit navigator, which is great, but none of us really like it. And I told her.
Yeah, I think we have to put it in.
And I think we have
Yeah.
to put it in there.
I mean, it's horrible.
So, yeah, if you go back, I think there's right at the top of this.
Permit
there's a-
unnavigator.
Yeah. Yeah, permit, so right at the very top in the green is reference to the permit navigator. So her suggestion was to put this or something similar to this in the references. And then maybe in the text of the regulations, just a brief statement referring to this. Instead of trying to list all kinds of possible permits in every section.
Can it just be a link? Would she be happy with a link? Like reference the word and make it a hot link?
Well, if this would be, these have links to
Right, but
everything.
like, if you're in your language, would it be easier for you to just insert one link that brings, and you can keep using the same link?
Oh, yeah, okay.
And drive the user to this?
So, yeah, if we had
Does that seem
a
easy?
simple statement at the end of the sections we're concerned about with a link back to this. You know, maybe that's an answer.
See, it's
I just, I'm not sure what the planning commission as a whole, and Greta's planning to come to our next meeting, so.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
When's the next meeting?
next Thursday of next week.
It seems like-
No, Tuesday of next week, sorry, Tuesday of next week.
So it is interesting because she does not reference the Army Corps.
No, but because this is just ANR permits. See, look right, yeah, see. So we could add, we could add to it and have the Corps of Engineers in there.
So I guess the question is this too much detail or not?
Well, I think she said what we have now, she thinks is too much detail, but we just put this in once at the beginning.
I
And
mean,
then, yeah. Like Missy suggested, maybe a link back to it. Yeah, I keep scrolling down. I think she had a couple more comments, but I think they were all pretty.
they were all the same, because
Yeah.
here she just said it repeated,
Same.
same comment.
Yeah.
da, 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 da. It's not necessary to be this redundant.
Yes. Well, so here's the bottom line.
God, Tom.
No one's gonna be able to miss it.
Should be clarified, Shoreland Protection Act may be required. I thought we said that. Oh, okay. I wouldn't be against that.
Yeah.
And the rest of the stuff was really for you, Andy. So-
Yeah, oh, yeah, like, that was the only thing she had issues with.
Yeah,
All the other stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, which is good, right?
yeah, that's great.
So what this has done, we were planning to have the planning commission public hearing this month, next week, but we delayed because we know we've got to resolve this. So the bottom line is, I don't want to move forward unless we have the blessing of the Regional Planning Commission. And she said she could not approve it in its current form.
And Greta is?
She's a senior planner at the Regional Planning Commission, been there a long time. She's been involved in our town plan, our 2014 development regulations, our most recent update, a year and a half ago. She's been intimately involved with North Euro and our regulations.
Did she say what would make her on board? Like, is inserting this one thing with that?
Well, that's what we'll find out for sure, more specifically when she attends our meeting next week, but.
And Andy, like, reaching out to Greta is a courtesy, right? I mean, it's not like,
Well, I don't know that it's absolutely required that we have their approval,
yeah,
but, as long as I'm chair, I'm gonna not wanna move
Yeah.
forward without it.
Sure would make life easier.
Yeah,
you're chair.
exactly. And, especially we can go to the public hearing and say, yeah, the Regional Planning Commission has reviewed and approved this.
yeah.
When we turn it over to the select board.
But just to be clear, the Regional Planning Commission doesn't supervise or
Correct.
supersede.
No, they, yeah,
municipal. They're a resource
They're-
for.
yeah,
Yeah.
they advise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean, if alignment is easy as inserting one thing,
Yeah,
why wouldn't? we?
right.
but also maybe getting rid of this repetitive thing. We're already got it in there 3, 4, 5 times.
So let's throw a couple options out there. One option is to take the document she gave us. Put that in that
In
reference
the
section,
references, yeah,
and then put this statement in the beginning
yep.
and call it a day.
And then maybe just at the end of these sections that we're concerned with, a quick link at the bottom that takes them back to the references. I think would be good.
I think that's good.
Yeah, okay,
Do you think she would buy that?
I think so.
And
So I mean, I'll know better when she's here next week, but. So I don't think we need to do anything more here. Like I said, I just wanted to
It
get.
doesn't sound like a huge overhaul. Sounds
No,
like
no.
some small tweaks.
So then back to this comment, Tom,
Yeah, there's a DEC reference to all of those. It's a link.
can we get rid of all the A, B, C, D and just have shoreland best management
Absolutely.
practices with a reference?
Absolutely.
But is that on her, what we got from A and R? Go back to
No.
the chart, no?
No.
So we would want her document plus some additional references beyond what's on here, right?
Aquatic nuisance, lake encroachment, shoreline protection. No, these are, what should I call them? These are to help people.
Yeah,
Right? these have really
That's why
nothing
we go
to,
in resources.
nothing to do with permit. It's like,
Yeah.
here's a bunch of resources for you.
So I think that's fine, but, you know, so maybe for that one, if we just, reference overall the Shoreland best management practices without breaking out all the individual ones.
So you would like, Andy, is Shoreland Best Management Practices, a link, Vermont Lake-wise Native Plant List, a link,
Yeah,
a Guide to Healthy Lake, a link, a bio link, and special ed
Yeah.
link. Done.
so, yeah, so, whatever is in this list here that is also in her list, I would get rid of. So
Yep.
we'd have our list, and then at the end of our list, see the following chart for, ANR, permit requirements.
So there's nothing in here that overlaps.
Okay, then we leave this.
So the only argument for keeping that list would be, it's actually educational for folks. Like, for
Yeah.
example, when I started this process, I didn't know what any of those things were.
Well, if we think they should stay in, then maybe it's just a matter of putting the
The
link.
link, that's what I would
under each
recommend.
individual one, right?
Or I think just put the link after Shoreline Best Management Practices link,
Okay, there we go.
which
Yeah.
could include, and then just this list
Yeah.
for information.
Yep,
Does that make sense?
yep.
Cause I didn't know any of these things.
I guess I didn't either.
Yeah, so I actually.
Yeah,
think there's
I
value.
knew about best management practices, but I can't.
I knew about,
That's gonna get more clicks. If you leave it.
Yes,
it will
exactly.
Get more clicks to say.
Yeah,
or like,
okay.
what is that?
That's a water bar.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
click on this. So
Yeah.
it might drive people
Yeah.
to educate themselves a
Right.
little bit. It's like a teaser for what's in the link. Maybe.
All right.
Cool list.
Okay, so what do you need, Andy?
Well, if you've got the time between now and say Friday morning, I can work with you, or you can just do it. Send me an updated version of this.
Yep.
And I'll have that on the agenda for next week's meeting.
Okay, just so I'm clear, we want Shoreline Best Management Practices and the link, the DEC
Yeah.
link, and we wanna keep all those identified up there, maybe not as big, I can do A and next to each other, keep those links to the balance of these.
Yeah,
Get rid of the big, or no, put the big statement in up front.
go up to the top here. I just want to see these references from the beginning. So regional agricultural best.
But she wants probably a link to her sheet, that extra sheet.
Yeah. So no, I think, this is all fine. So right at the very end, we say, refer to the following chart for potential.
And you want that
ANR.
chart in,
Yeah, and I want the chart in.
perfect.
Yeah,
I think that's great, Andy.
yeah. And then, so then we can go to the individual sections and maybe just a brief statement that, other permits may be required. See references and have the link back.
Perfect.
Yeah, okay.
And then where do we want this statement?
Which one, her?
Or are we, yeah, where do we want this?
Oh, maybe that just goes at the beginning too, right, under references.
Right, and then, so then in each one of these, we just want to reference back.
Yeah. Yeah, yes. That would
Okay.
be my recommendation. I think the planning commission will be.
Oh, I
okay
see what
with
you're
it.
saying. So instead of having it in there 3 or 4 times, it's
Right.
in there once. And then the rest of the time it's a say, see,
Yeah,
whatever you're gonna call that.
yeah. Yep,
Yeah, that's a tough one, cause.
yeah, it is.
No, like I don't read the whole thing if I'm interested
One
in
thing.
a driveway. I go there and if you have that statement, then we're in good shape. Okay, I know what to do.
Yeah, okay,
So I'll send it to you and then the planning commission can make the,
Yeah.
however they want it, whatever they want.
Andy, congratulations.
Well, this was.
Yeah,
a
you're
lot
the chair
easier than
again.
last time. Wait, David and I had some pretty lively discussions along the way last night. Oh, yeah, no, it's good to have input from all sides, yeah. Yeah,
So congratulations, cause you're chair again.
I think.
No, congratulations for getting this done.
Oh.
None of this is easy. It's like herding cats over there.
It is.
But you said you
Yeah.
said you're chair again.
Yes.
Yeah, Andy's chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't get rid of those. They stick to you. I tried to
Yeah.
get rid of one today and I can't get rid of it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, of course, Mike's got some health issues too, that was part of it.
Okay, all right,
All right.
everybody's good here.
Yep.
Good job.
Thanks.
Next.
Holy moly,
What?
you got a lot of.
Yeah, I should,
So
that's all confidential stuff. I should.
stress stresses me out having that many things open
Yeah.
at once.
Oh, you can't imagine.
I can't do that. Like 6 is my limit.
Why does it
If
keep
there's more than
disappearing?
6, it's too complicated.
I have that, yeah, I could show you.
I have 4 screens and that's enough.
All right, this one, this is interesting, so, this one is interesting. And I'll show you why. So this is everybody familiar with the special flood hazard area, the special flood hazard area?
It's, yeah,
Is
section
that above the 102?
102,
feet?
below 100,
below
Oh,
100.
yes, that's what I mean, like up to
the
100.
100-year flood, right?
Yes,
which is now 102.4.
102.4.
that's everybody's issue with the North Hero State Park. Because, like, with the
Well,
road,
that's one
it's in
of
the
the
flood
issues.
thing. No, that's not it.
It has not, nobody has referenced the
Oh, okay.
flood hazard. It's been more about access
Oh,
and,
okay. I thought it
And
was
Oh.
flood
a
hazard.
3-acre part of it.
Oh, okay, well,
Which is for.
Forget I
impervious
said it.
surfaces.
but yes,
Anyway.
I'm familiar.
Yeah,
so if I understand it right, Andy, this section is required by FEMA. And you've had very
which may
little,
be non-existent pretty soon, who knows?
but anyway, but nonetheless, it
Yeah.
has to be in here, and you probably couldn't make a lot of changes to it, is my guess.
Yes, that's correct. And just as an aside, there is also a flood hazard committee, which is updating our hazard procedures.
Oh, really?
And that's required to be done every
Part of the
5
town?
years. Yeah, every town has to do that and update it every 5
You
years.
sit on that?
Yes.
I'd like to come to a meeting if I
Okay.
can.
Yeah, well, we didn't have one this month. We're working with a consultant. We got a grant to help us with our update. Our next meeting will actually be a draft of the new plan.
Okay.
And it will be, I'll let you know, early July.
Because I think from a shoreland perspective, there's some really interesting things in here that help us
Okay,
from a
Mhm.
from a shoreline protection. Keeping it in that scope, we've got shoreline stabilization measures. So a permit issued after conditional use review by the DRB. Do I understand a conditional use? You go to the DRB, they're like, we'll let you do this if you do this. Is that
under the following conditions.
conditions, which could be planting something or whatever? Grading, excavation, or creation of a pond. And this one is super interesting to me. Prohibited. New fill. Except where necessary to elevate structures to meet the development standards.
Okay.
So I mean, everybody else comment on it, but those are 3 areas that I think, I guess in a sense, help
Mhm.
shoreline protection. As an example. Remember this 100 feet we keep talking about?
Mhm.
And Misha's like, you could do gravel all the way to the shoreline
Mhm.
because it's pervious.
I was gonna say that kind of is the opposite of that, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah. Cause that's what I was trying to get at with his, tell me how many, like what
Right.
size of stuff.
So I'm looking at DRB.
Yeah.
You haven't seen any of this come through DRB.
So something that we've seen, for example, which was confusing, was we did see a wall, a seawall that came through, but it came through for a house that's above 102.
But the seawall has to be at 102.
Has to be below 102, the seawall itself. I see, yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
can't be.
Well, but except for what's confusing is that property in the special flood hazard area?
Okay, so let me give you an example. Most of my property is not,
Mhm,
but I'm up at 110,
mhm,
but then I go down to 102
Mhm.
and where this all came from is I was researching, I was like, what is this? Cause in my town folder, special flood hazard, I'm like, what the heck?
yeah.
Well, if even a foot is in special flood hazard, you have to go to FEMA and prove that most of your property is not, or you're gonna get hit with extra high insurance.
Exactly, yeah.
So the previous owners went back and said, hold it. Here's a survey, most of the property where the house is specifically is above that.
Yeah.
So in this case, and maybe you won't be able to answer this, but in this case, you have a property which is high.
Yep.
Right? And, you know, like my property.
Yep.
Right? And then there's a fall off, like a direct 90-degree fall off, and that goes to the water level.
And if you were to put a seawall up there,
You would put
Like
it
your
at the water
neighbor.
level.
there's fill, shoreline stabilization.
But are they in the flood hazard area
Well-
if they're at 120?
No, it doesn't. Let me give you an example. Out at, Stevens Camp, that's Camp Ingalls. I showed you, I think, some photos last meeting. That is a huge seawall. It's kind of, because the rock face is eroding and trees are falling over. The bottom of that is above 102.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, I'd have to verify that.
That's,
I mean, well, maybe it's not, but they got all their permits through the state.
no, this is a great example. So, and I'm gonna give you another one. Cause I kept an eye on that one and I was kind of waiting for it to go to the DRB.
Hmm.
Cause Misha was like this and I did go back to him and I said, Misha, I'm not picking on this property specifically, but you put a seawall up. How do you address the neighbors? Cause the neighbors are gonna have erosion. You have erosion from your neighbor.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah,
Well,
we don't know what to do with that.
in this particular case, the existing shoreline was a rock face. So all they're really doing is stabilizing that rock face. They're not changing the wave pattern or anything, right?
But here's my question.
But anyway,
If they did a riprap, right?
it's, yeah, stones.
What does that mean? Rip rap?
The big stones,
Oh, yeah.
kind of randomly put down. No, these are let
That's
me,
what this
let's
was
see if I can find that picture.
was stacked,
Yeah.
large stones.
And I'm just sitting here saying, well, if any of those stones went below 102, it should have gone to the DRB.
Well, it did.
It did.
It did. This was.
The one Andy's talking about did.
No, the one I'm talking about did. Andy's did not.
Yeah, no, this probably is.
I'm not trying to squeal on anybody here. It's
No.
just, it's very confusing.
Understanding of like, when does it, and when does it
Right.
not? Cause
Yeah,
that
it
says.
calls for
I mean, fill is any type of rocks, and I mean, some of the best shoreline practices involve rocks.
Right.
Yeah,
So what do they define as fill?
yeah, see, I
That's what I was
wouldn't,
trying to ask.
I
like,
would
what's
not,
Rocks, Misha.
yeah, I would not define this as fill. I would simply define that as shoreline stabilization.
Yeah.
If you look, you can see the trees are ready to topple over the bank because the rock face is eroded over.
Yeah.
Well, and that's cool, but then it still needs to go to the DRB. Shoreline.
Well,
But
yeah, I
only
don't-
if it's in the special flood hazard area. Do we have a map of that?
There is a map.
So
yeah, there is a map.
there is a map and I do a topo. I do a topo and it's pretty easy to see. You can do 102 line,
Yeah.
so you can see it.
Oh, that's a good way to put that.
Yeah, that would be good.
Here's the question I don't know, Andy, and that'd be neat to ask the commission. Is there anything below 102.4 that is not considered special flood hazard?
Right.
That's
That
probably
was
an
my
easier
question.
question.
Yeah,
Or is that the definition of special flood hazard?
well, right now, current regulations say 102. That 102.4, I don't think is official yet.
So,
Wait, so we define special flood hazard area as
No.
less than 102.4?
102. Right now,
Right
it's
now.
102.
But we
But
define
it'll,
it.
ultimately go to
Yeah.
102.
So regardless of what FEMA says, that's what we say.
Well, we say it because that's what they say. Yeah.
So then the answer would be no.
Right.
so at some time, I don't know if you're driving it or Danielle. You and I were gonna meet with
Yeah.
Danielle,
Um,
cause she will set up a procedure for this, cause I think she was like,
Yeah. I think we were too. At the DRB, when we got this application, we were confused by it.
yeah, what is,
Yeah.
well,
why is this here?
you know, one thing that I'm thinking about right now. In our previous regulations, before the latest update, we required a permit for shoreline protection. We deleted that requirement in our update. And we probably would have deleted it here if somebody realized it was actually there. I mean, our intent was to not require a local permit for shoreline stabilization because it has to go through the state anyway, and we didn't want people to duplicate efforts.
But I should. this helps us with a couple issues that we have and that Misha has.
Yeah,
At least the DRB can look at it and say. Yeah. And what I like even more is Misha made a really interesting statement. He said, since he's been there, only 2 permits have been rejected outright. But it gives you an
That
opportunity.
here in North Hero?
No,
Oh, really? Overall?
because the permitting process is really DEC's ability to negotiate stuff.
Yeah,
Native plants,
Yeah.
no-mow zones.
that's what they did with my garage.
Right, oh, you can do this, but
Right.
do this.
That's why having local zoning regulations isn't duplication,
Mhm.
right? Because theirs isn't zoning, it really is, how do we negotiate?
Yeah, no, yeah, I understand.
So it's an interesting question for the DRB is somebody comes and says, I want to do shoreline stabilization. You're like, okay. I don't want to say this wrong. What do we get? Can you establish a no-mow zone? But is that in your,
That's not in our jurisdiction, that's planning commission. All we do at DRB is implement the zoning regulations as, you know, defined by the planning commission and approved by the select board.
so we would need stuff in here that says
Yeah,
the give or take, but DEC is pretty good at that. Misha, for that property, and he got like 1,000 square feet of no-mow zone. He did pretty good on it. He got a lot of no-mow zone
Yeah,
and some trees planted and a whole bunch. He
Yeah.
did a pretty good job in terms of getting stuff.
But that makes sense that that's his job. Is that really what we want
What?
our boards doing? I mean,
I'm,
he's an
Well,
expert, right?
I
He's
mean-
an expert in all things DEC, but.
Yeah.
I
well,
mean,
The rest
the
of the
DRB does have jurisdiction over requiring plantings.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah, like like if someone comes to the DRB and says, this is what we want to do, the DRB could say, all right, but you have to put a screen there. Right, you know, which is what I wanted us to do for the water tower.
yeah,
I wanted us to do that, but that didn't get traction. But that is within
Okay,
jurisdiction.
right. I just didn't know, like, he's just seemed, he has a lot more, right? He has a lot more things in his repertoire that he could
Yeah,
negotiate with. I just didn't know. what-
and also a broader range of things that he might be looking for. Yeah, like for
Well-
example, we don't have the jurisdiction to do a no-mow zone.
not to take the wind out of everybody's sails, but when we did our last updates, had I realized we really looked at this section, I would have deleted that.
Well, that's sad.
Well, I'm glad you didn't.
Well, but nobody's really acting on that right now, and you know.
Which one? Are you
The
talking about?
shoreline stabilization measures, because we want, that's gotta go through the state anyway.
Yeah.
And our intent was to not have people need to go through the town as well as the state on that. So you know, I don't know if the planning commission as a whole would have approved it, the select board would have approved it, but it would have been my proposal to eliminate that.
Hmm.
So, but it's there, so we gotta do something with it. So I think from your standpoint, you're saying it helps.
I like it, but this, what helps us more, and I'm gonna give you an example, because I've seen this happen a lot. Somebody's putting in a driveway,
Mhm.
gravel driveway all the way down to the lake, so they can launch their boats and all that kind of.
No,
No,
well, okay,
you go to Google Maps, and there's been a unpaved, which from DEC's perspective is impervious, all the way down the lake for the last 15 years.
yeah, okay,
Digging that up, putting gravel
yeah.
in,
Something that's,
technically, from
grandfathered in.
DEC's standpoint, impervious is impervious, but if it goes down to the lake, it's in the 102, which
Yeah.
now becomes fit.
maybe,
And I'm sorry, in that
Well-
example, are you saying that that's already existing or that somebody's building new?
But if it's a 6-foot
So-
footpath, then it's.
then it's cover your,
No, so what already exists is a car driving down for the last 15 years launching boats.
Yeah.
So that's become a compacted,
Gotcha.
unpaved driveway.
Yeah,
And now they come in and dig it up and put in gravel.
yeah.
but if they're keeping the elevation the same as it was, to me, that's not fill.
It's interesting.
Cause they're.
I mean,
not-
well, they're just they're digging up something and replacing it. at the same elevations. To
And isn't putting,
me, fill is, bringing up the grade,
yeah, gravel is better than the hard impacted surface,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I don't,
depending on, well, it depends on what kind of gravel. you
depends on if you're their neighbor or not.
use. Yeah,
Oh.
No, because I mean, what you get in one case is tire tracks that are this wide and a whole bunch of grass, which is good. Somebody I'm sure has a study on it, or gravel 10 feet wide all the way
Yeah.
down to the
Oh,
lake.
that's what you're saying.
But like, for example, what I would predict if that came to the DRB, if it already existed, the DRB would approve it.
yeah. Oh, for sure.
Interesting. So I know, because it says prohibited. But that's an interesting argument
Yeah,
that Andy has of, well, what is fill?
yeah, to me, in this context, it's raising the grade. So in other words, you couldn't go down and raise the grade from 100 to 102 to get you above the flood zone.
I don't agree with that.
Okay, no,
But I would need to research it.
Sure.
Well, and
I
I
should
think,
say I don't disagree with it. I really don't know.
Yeah.
well, I mean, and to be clear, I don't know that it's clearly defined.
Yeah, it probably isn't.
How about that? To be clear, it isn't clearly
Just-
defined.
My background in construction, I mean,
That was really
It works.
insightful comment.
Okay, so you come from the construction industry. so-
Yeah, I just-
So you kind of trump me.
well, what, no,
No,
it's not clear.
I don't think anybody ever trumps somebody. Tom, that's your job.
Yeah,
So, anyway, eventually we'll meet with Danielle.
yeah, yes.
Do this with her and she'll be like,
I
okay.
gotta meet with her Friday. She's getting pretty busy right now.
Yeah.
But,
And she'll be like, if she feels it needs to be a structured event within the ZA, then she said she'll put that in place.
yeah,
Okay. Next. Project identification. I don't have anything for that, other than, I actually have a video. Let me see if I can find the video. Didn't come through. So this is
Tom, do you use Hotmail? What is this?
Outlook.
This is Outlook.
yeah, they use Outlook.
Same.
So this is like Point State Park.
Where is it again? I'm sorry.
Like Point
Go
State.
right over the drawbridge.
Yep.
Like,
So this is the state?
yeah, that's the
You can
state
hear
park.
Tom's eyes going, ching.
No, there's no question, there's phosphorus being taken from that eroding trail into the lake.
Yep.
The challenge we have with DEC right now is just the definition. A trail is not necessarily considered development,
Mhm.
but is a park considered development? And better yet, when they put in pickleball courts, it acts like development to me.
Impervious surface.
Which is gonna be about 100 yards from this, which will flow into this and so on and so forth. So I am in discussions with DEC just to say,
Good.
what can we do with this? And, can we get money for it?
Yeah,
And so on and so forth.
Great.
Yeah, that's excellent.
But the bigger thing here is that's an example. If
Yeah.
people,
Has Jean come up with anything else? She was pretty engaged at the last meeting. Jean,
Parks and Rec.
no, has not. But this is
so
what,
I would volunteer to work with her on.
we wanna get pictures and videos like this and my question is, how do we get stuff like this in front of people?
Yeah,
So what if it's not in a park, if it's on your property?
Yeah.
Maybe you wanna say something to someone. And I'm just trying to set the stage of, and Cliff is 1,000% ready to work with us,
great.
right?
Yeah.
If we call him, it'd be nice to do a bunch of projects, like come out, evaluate these projects, he's happy to do it.
Yeah. Well, you and I can talk to Danielle about it. Again, she gets all around here and she sees a lot of things. And I had a conversation with her after our meeting. I said, yeah, we're not necessarily looking to you to turn somebody in, but if you see something, let Tom know or let me know. And maybe we can turn it into a project, so.
How is, our public works, so like my husband is, the superintendent for the public works in the town of Essex.
Okay.
And so he's all over the town.
Yep.
So he sees everything.
Yeah.
And he brings all of that back to the town engineers. And it's like, okay, hey, I've got this one, this one, this one, and this one. They take it from there to kind of, what do we need to do?
That's great.
They connect, so I don't know much about our public works department.
Yeah,
here.
well, yeah, it's basically one,
Tracy.
Tracy, well, he's got an assistant. No, there's two, he's got an assistant.
Oh, that's the entire.
That's the entire department.
It's a little different. That's like- Just thinking, like, my husband doesn't, you know what I mean, like, because he's all around town,
Yeah.
and he just hands it off to the engineers and says, here's a list of projects you might wanna consider. And they do all the permits, they do what they need to do, they try to get grant funding, they've got the
Yeah.
grant writers and all that stuff. So that's not an option here in North Hero, okay, just brainstorming how we can get more projects.
Yep.
People that are out
I
and
think it's a
about, do
great idea.
you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
people that are in town anyway, they must see things, right? Like,
I know people are seeing things.
do you think they don't wanna say anything, Tom, is that what you're thinking, or?
I
Most
think,
people
I don't think they know.
Don't
what
know,
this-
they don't know.
They just don't know that there's an opportunity there.
Gotcha.
No, it's, so, I mean, right now it's just, we're free thinking, but then we'll try to put some structure to it. What role do we wanna play in this? Do we wanna take people out to that property you were talking about, right? Organize that as a town event
Yeah.
and say, here's a property that got project funding and here's what it looks like now. And they probably have, I know there's pictures of what it used to look like.
Yeah.
And do, I had one at my house, it was 2 or 3, like Molly Varner. Couple agencies were there and they talked, but you'd have,
Do you remember the name of this one?
no. Cliff has, cause obviously you had the picture of it.
Mm-hmm. She
And
reached
then-
out to me, but I can't remember her name.
We did have snacks in that. And I wasn't allowed to, but then people brought wine and started drinking wine. I was like, are we allowed to do this? They're like, I don't know. People just drink wine.
It's better not to ask permission, just beg for.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it actually turned out to be a pretty good event. It was. I didn't realize this. We were the first Lake-wise in North Hero, and then we had that event, then we got 7, and then we had the other event got 15 or 20 or something like that. But I'm just. Okay, so we wanna do some promotion of projects.
Yeah. Well, the presentation next week might be an opportunity to make people aware that, keep your eyes open.
So we're not doing LWAP. Which is okay, I mean, it's their call,
She didn't talk about it.
right? So I can't remember, you gave us 3 options and we're doing,
What, you're talking about what Bridget's doing?
yeah, what's the topic? You gave us 3 topics last time. And the topic she's gonna focus on is practices around the home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
simple fixes.
Simple fix.
Simple fixes for lake
Sure,
shore
yeah.
stabilization. Or not stabilization, but to help them.
But I'd like her to talk about the LWAP. I think we'll get a lot more people, like, we would be able to pull in all the folks from Perry Bay if she were gonna talk about that. People would be really interested to hear about that.
Well, I'm having another meeting with Josh okay, so I mean, I think this all goes together. Friends of Northern Lake Champlain got funding from DEC. Cary Bay is one of 8 priority bays on Lake Champlain. Because of all this activity and everything, it got raised up to the top and got I wanna say $30,000 to $50,000 to do LWAP, Lake Watershed Action Plan. So what Josh is currently doing, and we can invite him here. What Josh is currently doing is organizing a bay team. Which he would like a select board member on, a shoreline committee member on. He's kind of targeting, Bob and Carrie at the marina, kind of as a business on
Yeah.
Cary Bay. He's targeted somebody on the DRB. I can't remember who. Pat, is there a Pat?
Oh, Patty,
Patty
Patty.
Levanti.
So he's
yeah.
targeted Patty to be on this, and there's one.
She's great.
I just can't remember. So he wants to form this team
Mhm.
specific for Cary Bay. Then
He
it
lives
ends,
on Cary Bay too. So that makes a ton of sense. He lives
and
across from you.
he's kind of targeting Tim, because Tim lives on Cary
Yeah,
Bay.
yeah.
I live on Cary Bay. Bob and Cary live on Cary Bay. So it's gonna kind of be a Bay team.
Yeah.
Great.
And then an engineer's gonna come in. Look around for projects. They're gonna go beyond the 250 because stuff out here does impact the bay and that kind of stuff. And then they'll make, I've seen them as many as 40 recommendations. But then they usually pare it down to like the top 6. And then those top 6, we should be able to go to the QUIS, the Clean Water Service Provider and Basin Water Quality Council and get funding. It's gonna be a 3-year process. I'm just telling you.
Love setting the
It doesn't,
expectation.
it doesn't work. It doesn't work fast enough for me, but that's kind of the event that's gonna happen.
And ultimately, what can they actually do there in Cary Bay? Is there a lot of point sources that could be
So,
handled?
there have been some that have been, I'll give you a couple examples. There's a series of 5 houses that have cliff erosion.
Okay.
And they should at a minimum plant trees up on top instead of just letting the cliff continue to erode. That's just an example. There are several down to the lake pathway driveways that at a minimum need water bars and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
What's a water bar?
it's just, as the water is rushing down the driveway, instead of letting it go into the lake, the water bars arrest it and at least push it off into,
Yeah,
into.
or slow it down.
Slow it down and that kind of stuff. I have a gorgeous wetland a wetland shoreland that could be restored. Because the neighbor over here has a seawall. And half of my property was not cleared and the neighbor's not cleared, so I have a nice bay. Which builds up with the green stuff. And so if I were to build that back out, then that would
Okay.
be a nice thing.
Yeah.
Pilots Point has a trail that's eroding into the bay. The marina might have something, and then now we're kind of Blockhouse Point going that way. There's definitely some cliffs and erosion going on there, and then I've heard there's issues with the culvert. Like it needs to be cleaned or it needs a new
Really?
culvert to reconnect.
Cause that culvert was replaced not that long, well,
So maybe
15 years ago.
Well, but. No, they're designed to last 50, 100
Right.
years.
And-
Back when we were
in
kids.
terms of Andy's age, it's like 1% of his life.
Terrified, not too long ago, only 15.
15 years, yeah. well,
Not bad.
You know, that drainage area on my property and going all the way down Pilots Point Road, all of that drains
Oh.
into Cary Bay.
Yeah. That road. And so, okay, then the final things are the private roads, right? So there's technically, that's all a private road. I have a private road. Blockhouse Point has a private road, and some of them are hideous. Not that it was intentional, but they were meant for like a couple houses,
Yeah.
and now they have a couple 50 houses on
Yeah.
them. And all that erosion and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's gonna be the scope of the
Does the
LWAP.
planning
Good.
commission have Oversight over private roads? Or not?
Not directly, we require, well, if somebody's building a new private road, yes,
Okay,
but existing ones, no.
okay.
And all the ones we have are existing.
Yeah.
So the question I have is, would anybody like to be a representative on the Bay team from Shoreland?
Well, you live on the bay.
Yeah,
I understand, but I'm opening it up to if,
No, it makes total sense for you to do it.
all right,
Plus you hold the purse strings.
yeah.
I think we want you there.
all right. That's it.
Great.
It's good
Excellent.
stuff.
There's a lot going on. I'm trying to figure out how we get a little more. But a lot of information has been relayed in the last 3 or 4 months. So I'm pretty happy. I'm personally pretty happy with it.
Just one thing, and because, I'm sorry, I couldn't make the last, presentation, but to hear Misha's comment about North Hero being kind of way ahead of everybody else as far as working with him on permitting, that was good to hear.
And he didn't, it wasn't solicited.
Yeah.
He just let you know, North Hill's working with the DEC better than anybody. And they seem to be, Danielle seems to have a pretty good idea of when to tell somebody to go.
Mhm.
She's,
Isn't that what one of the things we were hoping to accomplish in the subcommittee?
I would say when you and I started our
Yeah.
argument 3 years ago.
Yeah,
I think we're at a pretty good spot.
I think so too.
There's still some things happening that I'd like to do something about,
Yep.
but I'm kind of tired of it. But I mean, I think we're making some
I
progress.
do too.
So Misha's happy. Allison is another resource if we find a potential project. We gotta get out, but so anyway, the next meetings, we're gonna have Greta here.
That what the planning.
Oh, the planning commission. Okay, so we don't need to worry about that. So the next meeting, I'll just try to scope something just to get us in motion on how are we going to get people looking for projects?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, on that Bay Committee, you may want to include someone from the village whose property goes back.
That would be Carl or,
Tracy
oh, I bet you they would sit on it.
Boyd,
They're pretty,
Linda.
yeah, they're pretty, lake conscious.
Mhm.
I gotta talk to Joe, cause we promised them something. Remember the wall is falling down, most likely, they have a good project, but because it's within V-Trans right of way, V-Trans is probably gonna have to clear it, but right down over here, the wall is literally falling down. in the road. So as you're going through North Hero and then you do the curve
Yeah.
that way,
Yeah,
there's a wall. And
next to the lake.
next to the lake
Okay.
and the railing is starting to
Oh, okay.
cave over and all that kind of stuff. There is a
There's
good,
erosion in front of
Okay,
Boyd's
yeah.
property too, the red house.
there's a good project there,
Yeah.
just who can get
Who owns
credit
it?
for it.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
I vote to close.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Nice.
All right.
Do you want to take a spin?
I better not, because when I left my house, there was a guy who was soliciting for pest control.
Oh, that
My
guy.
husband
He's
was-
been all over.
Oh my gosh, my husband's